Hello, and welcome to Lone Cowboy Adventures. I want to take a couple of minutes of your time this morning and recognize that today is Veterans Day. And if you are a veteran or if you are currently serving in any of the branches, I want to thank you for your service. Back in the 80s, I tried to join uh, a branch in the military, and the recruiter said there was no way I could pass the physical because back in fifth grade I had crushed my finger, and I cannot straighten my finger. It's don't have feeling in part of it, and they said there's no way I could pass physical. So I do have family members that had been in the military. My grandfather on my mother's side was in the Army. I don't know much about his service because his records were burned up in a fire in St. Louis, but I do know from what he had told me that he was over in Guam and he led the calisthenics every morning because he was over 6 foot tall and he could face everybody and he could lead everybody in the calisthenics because everybody could see him because he was so tall. But I don't know much anything else. He did tell me one other story, and I better not share it on here. Um, but yeah, I looked up to him because um, he was he was very nice to me. I know back in his earlier days he wasn't he wasn't so nice, but yeah. I also have an uncle on my father's side who served in the Navy. And from the story that I got was on the farm they used to milk cows every morning and every night on and I guess he had gotten to an argument with his dad, my grandfather, and he peeled out the driveway and came back a few days later and informed my grandmother and grandfather that he was on his way to San Diego for basic training because he joined up in the Navy. So he was a radio man in a submarine, and these were the old diesel subs, from what I understand. And he told me, he says, we never knew where we were at, where we were going. He said, and for boredom, he says, my little area was the size of a closet. He said, we would pull the radios out, sweep the floors out, and put them back. So, uh, there's no way I could do that. I, yeah, in a tin can underneath the water, there is no way I could do that. Um, and I also have coworkers, friends that have served in the military. And you know who you are if you're watching this. And thank you again for your service. Um, it's just, uh, it's an honor to know you. And um, they don't really talk about it very much. Um, but one of the things I say at the end of every video is say hi to a stranger and thank a veteran. There's not very many World War One, World War Two veterans around. You'll recognize them because they'll usually have a hat on, and that's why I say hi to a stranger, because sometimes all they want is for someone to recognize them, shake their hand, thank them for their service, and they might even strike up a conversation, of telling you uh, about their service, where they were at, what they served as, or whatever. And as a younger person, it's really interesting to hear these stories from veterans. And it's not always a veteran of in the field, you know, in battle or whatever. There's nurses, there's doctors, all kinds of different jobs in the service. For instance, I have a good friend that was in the Air Force, and he ran satellites. And he might not be in the field in battle or whatever, but it was Air Force satellites that would send signals back and forth. He could probably tell you a lot more than I could. And that is basically what he's doing now. Is he's driving a satellite truck, broadcasting satellite signals from sporting events. And so, yeah. If you're still serving in one way or another in the public eye and you were in the military, thank you very much for your service and your continued service for our country. So, as I say at the end of every video, thank you again for your service. And say hi to a stranger. From my heart, thank you.